Have you ever stopped to think about what actually happens when a salesperson clicks Create Quote? I mean, it seems so simple, right? But that one click kicks off this incredibly complex, high-speed digital handshake between a bunch of massive enterprise systems. So today, let's deconstruct the architecture that makes that critical moment not just possible, but seamless. So this is the big question we're going to tackle. How do we get from one little click inside a CRM, like SAP's C4C or Salesforce, all the way to a perfectly formed, totally accurate sales order sitting in an ERP system like S4 HANA, ready for fulfillment? To figure that out, we're going to follow a single quote on its entire journey, from start to finish. And here's our roadmap for that journey. We'll start right where the user does, then we'll dive deep into the core engines that do all the heavy lifting. We'll see how these systems hand off control to each other, listen in on their real-time chats, and finally, we'll watch how the whole loop gets closed to create that final, official order.
Okay, let's dive in. Our journey begins right here at the starting point. This is the presentation layer, the part of the CRM that the salesperson actually sees and touches. This is where the whole dance begins.
So this layer is all about the user experience, built with the web technologies we all know, HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript. It gives the salesperson everything they need right at their fingertips: a dashboard to see all their quotes, a configuration screen to pick and choose product options, and of course, a preview of the final proposal. The goal here is simple. It has to be fast, it has to be intuitive, and it has to just work. And that brings us to the biggest design challenge of this whole layer. If that salesperson clicks a button and gets a loading spinner for 10 seconds, they're going to lose faith. They'll find a workaround, probably in a spreadsheet, and the whole system becomes useless. So minimizing that load time isn't just a nice-to-have technical goal. It's absolutely crucial for getting people to actually use the tool. So how do you make it feel so fast and seamless? Well, a big piece of the magic is a technology called SAML 2.0. Think of it as the secret ingredient for single sign-on. It's what lets a user jump from their CRM straight into the CPQ system without ever having to type in another password. It's a secure, totally invisible handshake happening in the background. Okay, so we're leaving the user interface behind now. It's time to pull back the curtain and dive into the application layer, the real brains of this whole operation. This is where all the complex calculations and the serious heavy lifting happens. Now, the application is powered by these 3 high-performance engines, and they all have to work together perfectly. First, you've got the configuration engine. It's the rule keeper, making sure you can't sell a product with incompatible parts. Then there's the pricing engine, the number cruncher, handling everything from the list price to the most complex discounts. And finally, the document engine takes all that data and turns it into a professional, polished PDF proposal.
Okay, that makes sense for standard stuff. But it raises a good question. What happens when the rules get really complicated? I'm talking about things like volume discounts that change based on a customer's entire purchase history, data that doesn't even live inside the CPQ system. How on earth does the system handle that?
The answer is actually pretty brilliant. It's all about event-driven logic. The system is designed with these specific hooks, or events, that fire at precise moments. So, for example, there's an event called onProductRuleExecutionEnd. A developer can attach a custom piece of code to that event, and it will run the instant the standard rules are done, giving you this incredible power to add your own custom logic. And for that custom logic, we drop down into IronPython. Now, this code snippet here is a really simple example, but it shows you the power. It's basically checking an attribute, and if the user selected A, it just stops the process and says, nope, please select B. This is exactly how you enforce those deep procedural business rules that you could never handle with just simple configuration options. Okay, so now we understand the front end and the core engines. Let's focus on that first critical handoff, that moment the user moves from the world of the CRM into the CPQ tool itself without a hitch. This whole flow is designed to feel completely invisible to the user. But behind the scenes, there's a lightning-fast conversation happening. The middleware, CPI, creates a new quote in CPQ and sends its unique ID back to the CRM. The CRM then builds a special URL with that ID and redirects the user's browser using that secure SAML token we talked about. CPQ catches the request, validates the token, and boom, the exact quote the user needs is loaded on the screen, instantly. All right, now things get really interesting. We're moving into the realm of dynamic, real-time data exchange. This is where CPQ needs to have a direct, live conversation with the big ERP system, S4 HANA, to get information that's accurate up to the very second. So what kicks this off? It's a simple user action. Someone clicks the Recalculate Price button. But that click does more than just run logic inside CPQ. It actually triggers an Iron Python script that is specifically designed to reach out, to pick up the phone, and start a live conversation with the back-end ERP.
And here's how that conversation goes down, step by step. The CPQ script packages up all the product details and sends them to the Cloud Platform Integration, or CPI. CPI acts as a secure middleman, a proxy, and calls the right pricing service in S4 HANA. S4 HANA runs its super complex calculations and sends back a neatly structured response. CPI translates it, sends it back to CPQ, and the original Iron Python script updates the totals on the user's screen. And this all happens in just a few seconds.
And this is what that structured data actually looks like. See, it's not just a random number fired back. It's a precise XML document. You can see that total net price tag is clearly labeled. This strict format means there's no guesswork, no ambiguity. CPQ knows exactly what it's getting and exactly what to do with it.
We are on the home stretch. We've configured the product, we've priced it, and the customer has accepted the quote. Now, let's look at the final, most crucial stage of this entire process, turning that approved quote into a real sales order that the business can actually fulfill. The beauty of this final handshake is that it's completely automated. As soon as that quote status flips to accepted, a webhook fires, pushing all the final data to CPI. And from there, CPI does two things at the same time. It shoots an update back to the C4C CRM to keep a perfect audit trail, and simultaneously, it transforms all that quote data to create the official sales order in S4 HANA. And let's be clear, this is not a simple copy-paste job. This final step is a really complex data transformation. You have to take the data structure from the CPQ quote and meticulously map it, field by field, to the required format for the ERP. It uses a classic SAP service called a BOPI, which is basically a very strict programming interface. It demands data in a very specific way, so precision here is absolutely everything. So when you step back and look at this whole journey, what are the big takeaways? Well, there are really three key architectural principles that make this whole symphony work. First, a layered design that keeps everything neat and separated. Second, that powerful event-driven logic that gives you incredible flexibility. And third, an API-first approach to integration, using a central hub like CPI to manage all the conversations. So after walking through this incredibly sophisticated, tightly coupled system, it leaves us with a pretty big question. Is this combination, a clean UI, powerful engines, and this flexible, event-driven integration, is this the definitive blueprint for how all modern enterprise sales tools should be built from now on? Definitely something to think about.